And I love how we get like 17 headlines per hour on what they're thinking and what they're not thinking. What's the export conversation?
Yeah, so the export situation is as follows. It's basically trying to add another layer to how OPEC, non-OPEC monitors what's going on in this group of 21 countries. Now, not everybody's on board, but the thinking is that going beyond the production data and looking at your export data as well, even informally, would give them some additional perspective about the accuracy of the compliance levels. And we talked a little bit earlier about that overall this is an organization that is in compliance and are now coming up with some new ways perhaps of trying to increase the credibility of this group, but also try to explore perhaps more creative ways of just trying to make a dent in a market that could in the longer term switch again to building global supplies.
Yeah,
Alex?
and I think the export's important, right? Because for Saudi Arabia, for example, they could overproduce in the summer, but because they need that from a domestic demand level. But the question is, how on earth do you monitor exports when there are already like 17 different estimates of individual production, for example?
And that's a very good point. And that again tells the story of how OPEC has grown into OPEC 2.0, into this group of 21 countries where there are now a lot more complex processes going on within the group, a lot more sources for data, a lot more inputs from various organizations. And that is why at Bloomberg, of course, we use a lot of that data as well to paint our own picture and to tell perhaps a bit of a different story. But again, what it comes down to is getting a better understanding of how effective these cuts really are and whether they need to make a case. Again, this is absolutely critical to the deliberations on the ground here, Alex, is that we're seeing a growing disparity perhaps about whether or not there needs to be an extension beyond the expiration in April of 2018, because we heard different voices. The Kuwaiti minister's comments actually pushed Brent crude some $30 a barrel lower. So we'll have to wait and see whether there will be any consensus on that front.